Do you know Instagram? Do you know how it started? It was a photo sharing platform, but only for whiskey users. And they went ahead and said, if you have great whiskey, click a picture of the whiskey and share details about the whiskey. What do you like about it, etc., etc. But you know what? The app is so nice. We would like to share anything beyond whiskey also. So they just slightly pivoted from whiskey tasting to generic photo app sharing. And the rest is history. Rolex for the first time got wristwatches for men. Before that, wristwatches were only worn by women. And giving you examples, Louis Vuitton, for the first time, came up with a bag with a flat top. Before that, bags used to have a curved top so that if they are going during rains, the water could slide down. That is the invention of Louis Vuitton which was out there. You don't even need a lot of revenue, but what you need is the absolute subject matter expertise of what you're solving for. Funding is a byproduct of your knowledge of the market and the problem you're solving. I was a very, very unsocial guy in college, right? Majority of my batch used to hate me. I got a degree in 5 years, not 4 years. I did not graduate in 4 years with my thing because my attendance was always less than 10%. At that time, there was a lot of tensions going on from Pakistan. So we used to do light hacking of Pakistani websites. Things like we used to do SQL injection, where you could actually get the entire list of database using errors. The day my college exams got over is the day my examination for life started. I chose not to spend time at a few places so that on the places where I can, I go very deep and very deep and very deep. The world's most difficult certification in cybersecurity is called OSCP. Offensive Security Certified Professional. We created one of the largest armies. At one time, I think we had like 55, 60 OSCP certified. Like globally, any big services company, Accenture, TCS, at any given time, will have not more than 10. There are 3 things that I look for in a person when I recruit them. They need to walk on water, fly in the air, and convert water into wine. The thing which I mean by that is, they have to be the best of 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 the best. During angel investment, if anybody is asking you for more than 5% of your company, run away from the person because they're basically there to take advantage of you because you know very little. Even more important than your vision is the people who you hire. Because even if your vision is wrong, with the right people, they will correct that. But if your vision is right and you have the wrong people, you're screwed in ways you can't even imagine. The worst thing in a startup is not that you don't do well. The worst thing in a startup is you're doing well in a business that's not scalable. I like this line by Vinod Khosla. A startup is the people it hires and not the plans it makes. So generally, चाहे स्कूल में चाहे कॉलेज में मेरी रिपोर्ट कार्ड में रेड्स ज्यादा होते थे, ब्लू कम होता था. Because most of the subjects I would be totally ridiculously bad at. I would hardly pass them. A lot of them I would be flunking and things around that, right? That was very, very normal. The only subjects which I was always top of my class, almost always, like all my school days and even my college days, most if not all times, was that whether it's physics, whether it's mathematics, whether it's computer science, right? Whether it's, and in computer science, because I did computer science engineering, whether it's programming in the first year itself to, there's a ton of stuff with data structures, networking, etc., and things around that. So there were a few things which I think I was reasonably good at. There were a lot of things which I was terribly bad at because I didn't feel like I wanted to spend time studying that or learning that. Now, why am I saying this is that, मैं आपसे एक question पूछता हूँ कि, generally when you have exams during college, right? Take a guess, right? How many hours do you think I was sleeping during exams? Where, the exam is the next day or in 2 days or 3 days. How many hours on an average, knowing what I just told you as a history of how good/bad of a student I was, how many hours do you think I was sleeping?
Maybe 10 hours, let's say.
Well, you're pretty close to accurate. It was easily 8, 10, 12 hours of sleep during the exam, especially because, somebody told me that you need to go to the exams with a fresh mind. I used to take it quite literally. It used to be fresh and clear mind because there was very little that was in my mind when I was going for these exams, especially the subjects which was not of my interest, right? So that was always there. But I'll tell you the unusual side of things. The day the exams used to get over, where pretty much the entire batch would be obviously very, very relaxed and very, very happy. Some of them will go to Goa. Some of them will go to their own hometowns and party and blah, 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 right? the day it gets over at say 1 p.m. in the afternoon, from that day for the next few months, how many hours do you think I was sleeping?
3 or 4 hours.
Exactly. So that is the fundamental difference. What I would say is, Shivang, that for me, the way I looked at it, right, the day the exams got over, my college exams got over, is the day my examination for life started. So the moment you look at it like that, and for me, a college exam was never as important as the examination of life. And while I was actually with that 10, 12 hours of sleep that I was having, it's almost like preparing. We were so excited because on the other side, the day the exams got over, I would actually then start deep diving into any subject that interests to me. So first year, for example, I remember there was, I was, I come from a middle class Marwadi family. One of the good or bad things about a middle class Marwadi family is generally you will have a mother which cannot see you working hard. It's just by design, right? They're just wired that way. Pure time, right? That's absolutely out there, right? And I've seen that probably across, if not everybody, but at least most mothers, because they have so much love for us, right? And it's totally unconditional. They're like, that would be there. Now, the reason I gave that example is that I still remember at the end of my first year, right? One of the things I always ensured by design, during my holidays, I would never ever stay at my house, right? I will go to my house for sure for all the key festivals. I will go and spend a week, 2 weeks of quality time with my people, my folks. However, staying for long durations of time was actually, I could see, was counterproductive.
You go into your comfort zone.
Well, I will be pushed into my comfort zone, right? Not go, pushed, thrown into my comfort. I still remember there was one night where I was I'm born and raised in Calcutta, so my parents are in Calcutta, and they basically, I still remember my mom was going to bed, and I was sitting on the bed that night, and I actually very clearly remember there was the first time I was actually learning how to break the WEP encryption, because Wi-Fi back in the days used to be WEP, then went to WPA, then went to WPA2. So how do you actually capture those packets, and how do you actually break that encryption? And how do you basically break into Wi-Fi? And it was so exciting, right? So I was doing it all night. And then when I woke up in the morning, my mom comes in, she wakes up and, it's 7 a.m., 8 a.m. And she comes and she's like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "Oh, what happened?" And she's like, "This is exactly the position I saw you when I went to bed. And you've not even like moved 1 inch from there. How will, this is bad for your brain. This is bad for your health. And this is, and look, first of all, this is coming out from a place of love. So I don't want to discount the fact. A lot of people don't have people around them who can actually be so loving and caring. And I'm very fortunate to have my mother and some incredible people around me who love me like mad, like truly love me like mad. So I'm very fortunate that way. But that also told me very clearly that, look, if I got to do this, and this is not, oh, I will wake up for one night and I'll do 20 hours and then boom, I'm a changed human being. No, it doesn't work like that, right? This is what you need to do every single night, every single day, for weeks, for months, for years. And that is where you create any kind of an impact, not just externally, but you change yourself as a human being when you go deep into things which are out there. So the point I'm trying to make there is just one of the things which I was very, very, very clear about was this as a fact that, look, when my vacations came, the summer vacations, right? I was in Calcutta and I said, look, during my college actually gives you some options of courses during vacations. You can come to the college. I said, yeah, I will take them up because I want to be in the college. I want to be doing more stuff than what is usually out there. But this will sound counterintuitive, but I'm actually I'm somebody who doesn't go by the rules always, and I'm lazy. And when I say lazy, don't confuse that with the number of hours I work, etc., etc. And both can coexist. If you want to talk about that more, we can talk about that later. So, I was supposed to be there on a particular date. And then, somebody said, you got to be there by 20th. I've always in my life, right? I've loved making best friends out of my college, like the peons in the college, they were like all my best friends, right? So I had called, Dinu bhaiya, just make sure mera registration ho jaye. Main na 2 हफ्ते बाद आऊंगा, which was totally fine. And after 2 weeks, I get a call from the dean of my college, and he says, Saket. I said, yes, sir. And he says, where are you? I said, I am, sir, I'm just going to be in the college, tomorrow. The registration in person was supposed to be 2 weeks back. I see you haven't done that. And still I have your form here signed. I said, sir, maybe there's a mistake. He said, yeah, the mistake is that you're in the college and you're a student here. You're barred from doing any courses this summer. Cut the phone. I was like, shit. Now, this was just summer course, so it wouldn't be like it's the end of the world. But for me, it was the end of the world because I was like, I caught the next flight. I went to Jaipur, which is where my college was. And next day morning, I was outside the gate of my dean. And I clearly remember I was there for like 6 hours, just trying to convince him that, look, I have to do these courses because those courses were of very high interest to me. And, this was not the subjects which I don't like, and I wanted to make sure that I do that. He's like, nope, nothing doing, gone. No, you can't do that. I said, that's fine. I only have one request from you. Let me stay in the college during summers, right? I don't want to go back because I want to do something, right? So he said, yeah, whatever. You can do that as long as you're paying the hostel fee. Who cares? Is what he said. I said, that's fine. So I got that. That summer was the first time I actually deep dive, and this was right after first year, where you don't do networking. I actually deep dive into the first principles. What is an IP address? What is the, sub network? How do you set up LAN? How do you set up WAN? And going very, very, very deep into networking, right? Now, why I gave you this example is while I was doing that, how many hours was I sleeping? 4 hours a night, right? And that's what, and the reason I say that, if you'll take every part of my life, anything that I would do, because going back to your question around kitni masti ki college mein or kitna kaam kiya college mein, and either ways, right? So the point I'm trying to make there is that there were things that I would not do, right? I was a very, very unsocial guy in college, right? Majority of my batch used to hate me. I'll give you more context about that if you want. But the reason I say hate me is because literally, they signed a petition with a lot of people from my batch towards the end of I got a degree in 5 years, not 4 years, right? I did not graduate in 4 years with my thing because my attendance was always less than 10%, right? And this was not a correspondence college, but I was going outside and teaching people. So it was not like I was outside the college and doing anything wrong. My teachers knew that, so they were very cool with it, but students were not cool with it. And there was a new professor who came in, became a director. This was before Rahul sir, who you mentioned. The only reason I say that to you is only one, that there are things which I did not do by conscious decisions, which made me sometimes very unpopular, that was totally by design. But there are things which I did, which I was ultra passionate about. And that was 16 hours, 18 hours a day. Now, the obvious thing will be, okay, you're doing cybersecurity today and you deep diving into laws of physics and computer science is very obvious. But is that what you've been doing even from your college days? The answer is absolutely no. I was the captain of my table tennis team. So when I was playing table tennis and we had a tournament coming up, I was very regular at practicing. We would just go straight practice for 10 hours, 12 hours a day. Straight practice. I used to lead the band of my college, right? We would play the same song all night. So we had an auditorium. We will switch off all the lights with the air conditioning, and it'll be Comfortably Numb from Pink Floyd, right? And we would play the same song until the time we have not done that 80, 90, 100 times for a very long stretch of duration. No, we are not done, because till the time we can get the absolute perfect sound of what that needs to. And once you've done that once you've played the same song with your band for 500 times, even if you are a jackass, right, you will still sound great on stage, right? So anything that you would see which is being touched, right, you go like deep into it. And then what happens is when you make that as a lifestyle of yours, I've been like this pretty much forever, then it's like almost like you can now say, if I touch this, if I touch that, if I touch that, there are areas which I know a lot, which I've experienced a lot, but that also comes at a cost. There are a lot of areas where I'm super naive at. I don't even understand a lot of things which very, very common. For example, I've never stepped into the kitchen, right? If you tell me what are the ingredients to make a particular type of dish, I would probably have almost zero idea, right? Because I've never had the time / interest. I never cook. I stay by myself in California. I've never cooked. I've stayed by myself for over a decade now, and I eat pretty healthy. But on the other side, I've never cooked, right? Now, is that a shortfall? I think it is, but that's by design. I chose not to spend time at a few places so that on the places where I can, I go very deep and very deep and very deep. And that is the reason why that's what was my life in college and even post college, that I handpick a few things and then go very, very, very deep.
Do you think this approach works for the entrepreneur as well? So for example, a founder, should he go deep into his or own field? So for example, you are a cybersecurity expert, but being a cybersecurity expert and being the founder, being the entrepreneur at the same time, is it a problem while you're taking care of other things on your startup? Let's say the talent management side, the acquiring side, the HR side, or maybe the culture side. Can you help us with an analogy here, and how does it help and not help?
So, a couple of points there, right? You use the word as the founder, right? Now, you want to keep this in mind that different stages of the company need different kinds of expertise. It's like this, right? When you were 2 years of age, your expertise was how to eat food, how to drink water, how to drink milk, etc., etc. That was your expertise, and you could survive with that. Today, if that's all you knew, no, there's a big problem, right? Now, the reason I say that is that your evolution comes with a change in expectations, expertise, roles, responsibilities, etc., etc. A startup is no different. Let's start with, since you mentioned if you're the founder and CEO. If you're the founder and CEO of a company, there are 4 big things that you start your company with, that you totally own, right? These things, the number one thing that you need to set is the vision of the company. Let me double click on that first, right? And then we'll go to the rest of them which are out there. The first piece, which is setting the vision of your company, is most important, and it's most important to come from the founder and CEO, the founder, right? And I'll give you examples where once you become a big company and the vision is set, right? Execution needs a very different kind of skill. Scaling needs a very different kind of skill. But you're talking about absolute startup. Since you mentioned a lot of people listening to this might be college students, right? The first thing you do is set the vision of the company. Tell me something. If you set a vision of the company of becoming or opening the greatest food chain in the world, what do you need to know to make sure that your vision stands out the most? And the vision doesn't have to be a new invention. It can be something as simple as Ola, which saw what Uber is doing and says, I can do a cheaper version of that. Flipkart saw what Amazon is doing. It was a cheaper version. It was not reinventing the wheel. Rolex watches was a brand new invention because Rolex for the first time got wristwatches for men. Before that, wristwatches were only worn by women, right? So giving you examples, Louis Vuitton, for the first time 300 years back, came up with a bag with a flat top. Before that, bags used to have a curved top so that if they are going during rains, the water could slide down. So Louis Vuitton for the first time came up with the bags which are flat, which not only could be stacked one over the other, but they also came up with the wheels through which you can actually drive the bags through. That is the invention of Louis Vuitton which was out there. So, in other words, in order to set your vision, and it can be any vision, the minimum prerequisite to know that your vision is right. Whether it's for a new invention or for an existing invention, you have a better feature, faster feature, cheaper offering, etc., etc. You really need to know the audience. You really need to be the subject matter expert of what you are experiencing. And sometimes it can be, I saw, for example, the Airbnb founders, right? They said, look, I wanted a room which is not as expensive as a hotel. And at the same time, I didn't want something which was unsafe and, not clean, etc., etc. So they said my friends would rent out a room for me. So therefore, that became Airbnb. Now, they themselves became an expert. First, they experienced the problem. Then they went and spoke to hundreds of people. Will you give your room for a rent? And on the other side, will you take rooms if people listed that and there's a reliable way of, going in? And today, Airbnb is a very large company. So you have to become the super ultra duper subject matter expert of something when you're the founder. Because otherwise, your vision that you will set can be flawed. Because if that is flawed, your vision where you're trying to get towards is flawed, it's not that you're doomed, because you can always change the vision also. But here's the point. You are starting to put a food truck or a restaurant place, and then you have to change the vision to becoming a software company. That will be a very heavy lift. The kind of people you would have hired, the kind of way of reading the market, talking to the customers, all of that will go to waste. Can it not be done? Of course it can be done, right? But on the other side, and a lot of examples are like that, right? Where you start in a different way and you end in a different way, right? But if it's a very hard pivot, it's very difficult to do that. Adjacent pivots happen all the time. Do you know Instagram? Do you know how it started?
It was not a photo sharing platform.
It was a photo sharing platform, but only for whiskey users. It was a whiskey photo app sharing. 9 engineers made that. And they went ahead and said, if you have great whiskey, click a picture of the whiskey and share details about the whiskey. What do you like about it, etc., etc. Now, they created such an incredible app where a lot of people started commenting, we love the whiskey sharing, but you know what? The app is so nice, we would like to share anything beyond whiskey also. Because only whiskey is very, very, very small, niche audience which is there. So the Instagram founders were like, we didn't think of that. That makes a lot of sense, right? And they hardly had to make any change there, right? Because the app and the technology is the same. So they just slightly pivoted from whiskey tasting to generic photo app sharing, right? And the rest is history. With 9 people, they got acquired for $1 billion, right? The reason I'm giving you this example, Uber only started for luxury cars. Today, 90% of revenue of Uber is not luxury, it's Uber X or Uber Auto or Uber Bike, which is there. So they've made a small pivot, but here's the point. You started Uber, but you pivoted into an infrastructure and rental company. That would be a massive flip. So coming back to the first point, you should be a subject matter expert. And that's the reason why a lot of founders come to me, right? All the time. We incubated from IIT Bombay, so we get a ton of startups from there. We get so many people who actually, come to me from a person, hey, what is a startup advice? And they come to me with brilliant websites, and this is the font, and this is the logo, and this is my website. And I tell them that this is shit.
What's your vision?
That's not vision. How many customers have you spoken to? What your vision is a byproduct. Most people, when they start a startup, they're so excited about the website that they will, here is the color, here is the font, here is what people will look at my website, here is how they will pay, here is a slide deck. All of that is literally less than 2% of what you need to do when you start a startup. 98% of what you need to do is talk to at least 100 customers. Just go and talk. I was talking to somebody just last week on that, and like, oh wow, that he's doing a consumer startup. And I said, and he said, Saket, my consumers will be normal people. I said, okay, where will you find your normal people? He said, age group between 18 and 25 will be my target audience. I said, where would you find these people? Said, typically maybe in shopping malls. I said, if you go to shopping mall and simply, you don't even need to put up a stall. Just say, I'll give you 100 rupee Amazon voucher. If you come and spend 5 minutes with me and answer 5 questions of mine, and 100 rupees for one person means 1000 rupees for 10 people. And if you just take 5,000 rupees, which is 50 people, which is not a crazy amount of budget. A lot of people have that much money. That should not be a problem. Just with 5,000 rupees that you spend, if you can do 50 people in a very, very sincere way. Make an Excel sheet with the exact questions that you ask. Hey, what is the problem in this space? Would you download an app? If I created the app, how much are you willing to pay for the app? Ask all of these questions. Just take 5 minutes. If I gave you 100 rupees and asked 5 minutes of your time, it's a very fair ask, right? If I just ask you, can you answer 5 questions? You'll be like, yeah, dude, don't waste my time, right? Like, I'm giving you an Amazon voucher because your time is valuable. And if you do that, that is what gives you a sense of creating what you need to create. Talking to hundreds. This guy had 3 co-founders. I said, and he's already doing it for 3 years and he's been struggling with that. So I said, dude, if you're struggling with this, you should go ahead and not interview 100 customers. You should do 500 customers each. 500 multiplied by 3, 15. Imagine how big of a subject matter expert you become. You don't need to ask people what app to build now. You've got the intuitive knowledge and understanding. So customer interviews. And understanding the customer in true sense is what 98% of your job is when you're starting a company. 2% is all that crap around what's the name of the company. I mean, what kind of a name is Apple? And it's a $3 trillion company. You don't go to an Apple store because it's called Apple. It's because they understood the customer and they're solving a pain that you're ready to say and spend a bomb amount of money for. So number 1 is vision. Go ahead. You have a question.
No, I want you to complete first.
So number 1 is vision. I generally couple vision with funding, but that totally can go as step 2 also. Then instead of 4, it'll become 5 things then. So step 2 is funding. As a CEO and founder, if you can't raise funds, you're not the CEO. Let's be very, very, very clear about that. Now, funding, having raised over $100 million, we've done well from a funding perspective. The last round of funding we raised, $50 million. Funding is almost like dating. If you are at a point where you want to date people and nobody wants to date you, right? That is arguably a problem in you and not the number of people out there. The other way around, if you're attractive enough in whatever ways, intellectually, the way you look, the way you speak, whatever, doesn't matter. When you are a prized asset, then you don't have to go and search. It is basically everybody wants to date you. Not everybody, but a lot of people want to do that. The reason I gave that example, maybe you will connect with a lot of young people. A more polished example of that is there are 2 types of awards that you win. The first kind of award is where if I'm giving you an award, you will feel obliged about the fact that you won the award, right? Think of it like this, right? If you're in a university, you top the university and the university dean or director brings you on the stage and says, congratulations, you are my number 1 student, right? So will you feel really good about that? The answer is absolutely yes. You are feeling obliged. Think of a different kind of an award. Suppose your university had an alumni like APJ Abdul Kalam and your university does an awards function to give an award to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Tell me who is feeling obliged there?
The person who's giving the award.
Exactly. Why am I giving you this example? Right? Coming back to funding, it's the same dating example which I said, right? Funding is a byproduct of your knowledge of the market and the problem you're solving. That is why going back to those 100, 200, 500 customer interviews. When you sit with an investor, if the investor can walk out not being impressed by your slide decks because they see probably 10 slides. Any good investor gets 10 new slide decks in their inbox every day. Everybody wants to get funded, right? Not by the design of your PPTs, not by how good of an English or Hindi you can speak. Those are not important things. But your grip of the space. And I'm talking about early stage, remember. If you do series B, C, D, it's no longer your grip of the space. You have to show numbers. Because as you keep getting bigger, stories don't work. You have to show actual revenue, not data also. Revenue. It used to be eyeballs, downloads for consumer apps. It's no longer the case. For e-commerce, it used to be the total GMV. Now that's no longer the case. It's very hardcore revenue, right? But that's when you keep growing bigger. If you're a 19-year-old who's looking at this and wanting to start up, a startup, right? You don't even need a lot of customers. You don't even need a lot of revenue. But what you need is the absolute subject matter expertise of what you're solving for. And not just talking to potential customers, you would have seen every YouTube video of your target base as a customer base. How many people have tried to solve this problem in the past? How does that work? Having thought through the whole thing is enough to easily make you raise in India a couple of crore rupees. If you're in the Silicon Valley, very easily a couple of $1 million at a $10 to $20 million valuation. That's a very, very fair and a very, very standard, seed investment that comes in. We did $3 million of seed investment back in 2018. 2018 is what we did around 5 years back. We went from a services company to a product company. So as a services company, we never needed to raise funds. So we never raised funds. But on the product company, we became in 2018 a product company. And when that happened, we were able to go ahead and, raise decent, we did around $2 to $3 million at I think around 7.5 million valuation. So post-money valuation of around $10 million.
We'll come to the two things. Again, we would like to cover that. But
there is more. There's 3 more, but very, very comfortable in double-clicking there.
Before that, give us an analogy. Got the framework. But give us an analogy on save. So it's a B2B thing. And you started this in college. आपने सबसे पहले कस्टमर इंटरव्यूज कैसे करे, किसके करे? सेकंड थिंग, उससे भी पहले व्हाट वाज द आइडिया एंड हाउ वाज योर मिशन इन्वॉल्व्ड? आपने मिशन सेटिंग, विजन सेटिंग कैसे करी? क्योंकि B2B बिजनेस में यू आर अ कॉलेज स्टूडेंट एंड यू स्टार्टेड दिस इन योर 4th year, राइट?
3rd year.
या सो आप किससे बात कर रहे थे? वर यू टॉकिंग टू द बिजनेसेस? और उससे भी पहले आपको ये आइडिया कैसे आया था? क्योंकि ग्रेटेस्ट बिजनेसेस आर बिल्ट ऑन डीपेस्ट कंज्यूमर इनसाइट्स. व्हाट वाज योर कंज्यूमर इनसाइट? व्हाट वाज द स्टोरी ऑफ स्टकिंग टू दैट?
Yeah, so a couple of points. Let's understand that, right? For me, everything boils down to the same answer. I'll almost seem like a broken record here. Deep subject matter expertise. So I started this company in my 3rd year and 4th year early, right, is when I started this. Before that, I was basically doing training sessions for cybersecurity. You know what is the best way to learn? It's by teaching. Right? It's very simple. So I was going ahead and I was talking and teaching every weekend. I used to be out in some college or the other in India, but I used to take these 2-day workshops
of cybersecurity.
We call it ethical hacking.
Okay.
Right? So these were 2-day workshops that I was taking. I don't know, maybe I've taken like 200 of those in that tenure of 4 years. And we were even doing that for the first few years when we started the company, right?
This was Lucidus time.
That's what we used to call it, Lucidus. That is correct, right? So my first, second, 3rd year, this is what I was doing every weekend, and sometimes even on weekdays, we used to do that. I used to be doing that. And the good part of doing that is the more you teach, and my sessions were very hardcore, means we will go ahead and we will get people. So I'll have, say, 100 people. So I used to charge, say, 1,000 rupees for a 2-day workshop where you will learn live hacking. Will you pay that?
Of course.
Yes, a lot of people will. No theory. You come with your laptop.
And I'll show you a demonstration.
No show you. You will hack. So what we will do is, for example, back in the days, we used to go ahead and we used to have any kind of domain specific. For example, we used to live, and this was back 10 years back, right? So we used to go ahead and say, look, at that time there was a lot of tensions going on from Pakistan. So we used to do live hacking of Pakistani websites. We said, we'll go on the internet, look for those websites which are out there, and what are the vulnerabilities which are out there, and we would just do a test run and things around that. Now, we did go ahead and do responsible disclosure at the end, where we'll say, we're not hacking you to the point where we are defacing you or anything. We actually used to, there was one of the things at the end where we said, we've tried you, we've tested your website, it's hackable. Here is sample data from your database with things like we used to do SQL injection, where you could actually get the entire list of database using errors on a web application, and then we'll send out the email saying, this is the way, please patch it, right? So we tried doing the right thing, but on the other side, how much fun would that be to do that live in the class, right? How much fun would that be to go ahead and build a Trojan by yourself where you can in real time get access to 100 systems and their cameras and be able to see that live, right? How fun would that be to go ahead and live hack the Wi-Fi router of your college?
और ये आपने कैसे सीखा था? Because during that time ये सब YouTube पे available था.
Oh, absolutely.
Got it.
So not only was everything available on YouTube, there were dedicated courses on that online. So I used to rely on things like OCW, which was the MIT way. It's like the new version of that is Coursera. Then there was NPTEL, which is even today. It's a free of cost resource for every single course given by IITs, and it's available free of cost.
Why do we need college then?
We can talk about that later. But the reason why I just mentioned this to you is that, that is the core deep subject matter expertise. And going back to your question, which is like, what inspired you to start your startup and set the vision, just closing that thread, and then we can go to the next question if you want, is just the fact that because I was doing that quite literally every single week I was doing, in order to teach, I really need to know things, right? I was teaching masters and PhD students. I can't walk into a classroom and really not know what I'm talking about, right? And remember, using a tool doesn't help. I need to help them code the tool. I need to help them code the library, right? Or what's really happening under the hood. So that is the fun part. Because I was doing that, we started our company not as a B2B company. It was actually a cybersecurity training company. So that was good. But you still say, hold on, you did venture into B2B, right? So when did that happen? Now remember, when you're teaching people to how to hack into websites, we will always have an expertise of understanding how websites are hacked. So when that is the case, while we were training people, and it was pretty good earnings, right? I mean, as a student, 1,000 rupees per head per student for 100 people is 1 lakh rupees. When you do 1 lakh rupees every weekend, right? And even after expenses, there's a big chunk of it is left, right? Quite literally, I was swimming in money, right? Because that was my college days, right? So and for your audience outside India, that's almost like, you're talking about like almost $2,000 every weekend that you're getting in your pocket. That's a lot of money for any country or any student. So that was going very, very well. While that was going very well, and we started the training side of things, we also knew that we knew how to secure a lot of websites. That time, LinkedIn had got hacked, Yahoo had got hacked. There's a lot of hacks which had already started. So then a lot of companies were going online. I still remember my first ever customer was Tata Sky, right? And the people who we got connected to, and by the way, you can get connected to people on LinkedIn. It's as simple as that, we get connected to people on LinkedIn. And when we got connected to Tata Sky, I was talking to their head of cybersecurity, and I said, look, we can help you protect your website, tatasky.com. Now I know it's called Tata Play. That used to be called Tata Sky back then. And the guy said, look, I see you don't have any credentials of actually protecting companies. I'm ready to give it a shot. I'm ready to give you, this thing. But it will be at one condition. I said, what is that condition? He says, I need 80% discount. In my mind, I'm thinking like, I could have given you 95% discount. I don't give 2 cents about the money you're giving me. All I need is one of the largest companies in India, which everybody knows about. So I said, I'm okay with that if you allow me to use your logo on my website. He says, yeah, that's easy. I don't care about that. I said, we have a deal then. So we did that for the next 5, even today, we actually do a lot of security for Tata Sky. They've been my customer for over a decade, right? So, and because Tata Sky became a customer, I went to another company then, and then the second company I will say, hey, by the way, do you know, this is what we are doing for Tata Sky. and many others. You don't have to say who others, because you're starting to sell, which is where. See, the unfortunate part of B2B selling is everybody wants to know who are the 10 companies you're working with, which are big companies, and nobody wants to become the first 10, right?
So catch-22.
Well, catch-22, but that's where you go in, and you should read the book called Crossing the Chasm. It's by Geoffrey Moore. It actually teaches you how do you break into new areas there, where he says you can go from early visionaries to early majority, and the way you do that is you see pragmatic buyers in pain. So that pain, are you solving it, or you're giving it something in cheap? You can do that. Here, the cheap was there. I was super comfortable with that. And once that happened, I got HDFC Bank, I got ICICI Bank. Globally, I got Google, Facebook, PayPal, Visa, McKinsey. Some of the largest companies in the world that we started working with. Again, goes back to the expertise. Because getting a customer in B2B, I actually think is not as difficult as retaining a customer is.
Why so?
Because they have a lot of options. And if you don't give them quality services, there will be another Saket calling them saying, I'll give you another 80% discount. And they'll say, Saket, thank you so much. Now your prices are going up, so I will go to somebody else. That is where, for example, when we built the team at that time, because I was a services company for the first 6 years, the world's most difficult certification in cybersecurity is called OSCP. Offensive Security Certified Professional. When I say most, it's one of the most difficult. I mean, like, the different parameters of most, right? At least back in the day, it was the cool certificate to have, right? And it's a very, very direct certification when there are no question and answers.
Heck, hello.
There are 5 IP addresses they give you for 24 hours. You have to hack into those 5 IPs, capture the flag which will be there on their server or wherever, and then submit to them in 24 hours. So it's as direct as possible. To become an OSCP was a pretty big deal. And it used to be at that time charged around $1,000, which is around 80,000 rupees right now. That time 60,000 rupees. So the rule that I created was, of course, I've always made sure that we hire the best of the best of the best of the best. We'll talk more about that in the team side of things, because that's one of the 5. But when we hire the right people, the rule was that we will pay, Lucidus at that time and now SAFE, we as a company will pay the $1,000 fee for your exam. But you have to clear the exam in 3 months. If you don't clear it, you will be fired.
It's incentive and carrot and sticks at the...
It always goes together in my mind, right? Only one side is I personally don't think works very well. But coming back to what you were mentioning, because I did that, we created one of the largest armies. At one time, I think we had like 55, 60 OSCP certified. Like globally, any big services company, Accenture, TCS, at any given time will have not more than 10. I had 55, 60 of them. So any project that we will take, we will just blow their minds out and show them, oh my God, this is why we did the end-to-end of UPI and Beam before it was launched, right? We've done some phenomenal projects as a services company, and we were quite successful. From a small team of 50 people or whatever that was, we were at like $5 million, $6 million in revenue, right? So we were doing quite well, and we were growing very well. We were profitable, etc., etc. And that's why we didn't raise funds. But the year where we did the best in services, 2018, is where we totally flipped our business model. And we said, we don't want to do services because we're doing 5 million, 6 million in revenue. How do you grow from 5 million to 50 to 500 million?
Only way is a product.
No, the only way is not the product. Only way to grow in that scale in the shortest time possible is product.
Can you double click on that?
Yeah, simple. Today, Infosys, TCS, Accenture are very, very large companies with tens of billions of dollars in revenue. But it has taken them 40 years to build that company.
Because this is a service-based.
Yeah.
They need power.
Humans. And the reality is just this. The more the humans, the more the complexity, the quality goes down. And that's not easy because the quality of people automatically come down. Today, in our company, we've blacklisted people. I mean, my HR would never get to me a CV, which is from a person who's working in Infosys, Tech Mahindra, or TCS, or things around that. I'm not saying there are no good people there. Of course, when you have 400,000 people, there will be good people. But the probability of getting somebody who can work their ass off, who can actually, I mean, that's why I was I was laughing when I heard Narayan Murthy say 70 hours a week. I thought that was a very stupid statement to make, because I don't think people who are young, in fact, I don't think it should be at any point, but especially since he made about young people the statement, it's actually very stupid to think about people working 70 hours a week.
It should be more.
The minimum should be 100 hours a week. If there's anything less than 100 hours, you're wasting your life. And I can give you enough examples. In fact, by the way, last Sunday, I watched a movie, and I was dragged into this movie. It was a pretty good movie. There's this movie around IAS and IPS preparation. I forgot what it's called. 12th fail, exactly. Right? Think about it, right? The inflection point of that guy, and if you guys have seen that movie, comes from the point where his girlfriend comes to him and says, here is a stopwatch. I want you to start studying. Every time you start, you click on start and you click on stop for 16 hours every day. And you do that for the full year. And I know that you will make it. 16 hours a day multiplied by 7 is equal to 112 hours. If you think about it, any single profession that you look up to, right? Engineers coming out of IIT. Do you think people who actually are cracking into IITs are not doing 100 hours a week? 100 hours a week? Of course they are. People who are going to IS and these are the smartest people. Are they not doing 100 hours a week? They're already doing that, right? Go the other extreme also. Saket, these are very, very niche professions. Take the example of Army, Navy. Do you think when people go to the Navy and the training and the rigor that they have, is that not 100 hours a week? Of course it is. I'll take it to the other extreme. Take anybody who you think is a role model to you.
They have put in those hours.
Virat Kohli, Sachin Tendulkar, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. Do you think they're not doing 100 hours a week? We all look up to these people, these professions, these lifestyles and say, wow, I respect these people so much. And then when somebody says 70 hours a week, oh my God, work-life balance is shit, is what people need to understand when they are young. And this crap around work-life balance is the reason why most, if not all people, start suffering in life, and then they start blaming the society of saying how unequal is the society, I'm not getting enough opportunities. When they walk into a mall and they look at a bag which they cannot afford, they're like, oh my God, I can't see that. When they look at people making a big impact from their own batch, they're like, oh my God, I'm not being able to make the impact because I was not given the opportunity. No, opportunity comes when when you're prepared for that. Right? That's the meaning of luck, is what I say. Like I love, I learned this somewhere. It says, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Am I lucky? I'm super lucky. But that is because I've been preparing. And when you are prepared and then opportunity strikes right, boom, that's an explosion. So that's just a very high level in terms of, I know we went through a different tangent, but the reason I say that is just, from an overall perspective, I don't think the people are thinking, right, this should not even be a point of conversation, right? You want work-life balance, go work with Punjab National Bank and you should be happy with 25,000 rupees a month or whatever they pay, and then don't complain about life. That's fine. That's totally fine if you want to do that. Just don't complain about things that you don't have then. That's a lifestyle choice. But on one side, you want to be known for something, you want to create an impact, you want to be able to afford every luxury in life, or you correlate with all of these big sports people or whatever, whoever's your role model, right? Albert Einstein never did less than 100 hours a week all his life to get to where he got, right? And it was not money, his high was knowledge. So that's my fundamental disconnect, right? When people are coming and joining us, and we have around 200 people, right? We scare people. I scare people. Are you mad? You want to join here? Right? Yesterday, I was in the office. I was here with Winnie. Our team was here. We were in the office till like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And when I went back to my house, I was still doing a couple of hours worth of call, which is out there. Oh my God, does that mean, Saket, you're doing that every day, every night, 7 days a week? Of course not, right? I just told you I went for a movie also. Yeah. So if I'm doing quality vacation, I love doing that, right? I love going ahead and watching great documentaries. I love playing the piano. When I'm playing the piano, the whole world ceases to exist and I don't give two fucks about anything which is out there in the world. I'm just in my world with the piano. But what I'm saying is that is still, that I'm just going deep into everything that I'm doing even today. But most of my day is for safe, is to build this company that I've seen that as a challenge, and at the same time I enjoy doing that. So anyways, that's where we are. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick segue. when he was telling me that most of the people working here are here for more than a decade. So you were also telling that, you say people when they are joining ki yahan par kyun kaam kar rahe ho? Because you have to work your ass off if you're taking this. So what's the carrot part of that thing, which is making your folks, which is making your team stay with you for so long?
So, a couple of points there. We've been very fortunate. Our attrition level is very, very, very low, right?
How you kept that low as a founder?
So, couple of points, right? So, attrition levels are a function of, like, me personally, do I care about attrition level? The answer is absolutely no. See, attrition is a byproduct for what you are doing in your culture, and even before culture, what kind of people are you hiring? When I hire people, I'm already scaring them. I'm already saying we do 100 hours a week a lot of times, right? A lot of weekends where if you want, on weekend nobody should touch me and nobody should call me, this is not your place, right? I was on call with somebody today. He was a principal engineer at Amazon because we are looking at somebody senior, for our engineering team. And I said, look, this is a place where we laugh on work-life balance. We laugh that, people are wasting their life. I would like to go we call it high intensity work culture, right? And this is our culture. And he says, Saket, I'm okay to do that maybe once a quarter. Some deliveries there and things around that. I don't know how you can sustain that. And I was telling him that,
how did you politely refuse?
Well, he understood. He was a smart guy for sure. So he's a smart guy. So he says, Saket, this is what I can do maybe once a quarter. I said, then it definitely is not a fit. So it's better to eliminate these people right now. He was super talented. One of the top engineers for Amazon right now, etc., etc. But this is not the place for him. And I would eliminate that way ahead. And I'm very open. I'm being on camera saying this. I've said this a million times, that this is not the place if you need work-life balance. Just don't be here, right? Don't even join us. Don't come here, right? And when you join that, now the autonomy side of it is there is no fingerprint recognition scanner which sees how many hours you've worked. That is the reason why people stay. You give that autonomy. I've scared you enough where I know that you are very comfortable. In fact, for most people, it's second nature to work that hard. It needs to be done and what's expected out of you. And you will get shit done. Now, whether it takes you 20 hours a day or you do 2 hours a day, generally it doesn't happen in 2 hours because there's a lot of work and the team is small, and I like it that way. More about that if you want. I can talk about talent density also. But the other side is just one that, look, it's just not possible to be able to go ahead and have the right culture when you hire very talented people and then micromanage them and say, what time did you come? Yes, I'm expecting deliveries from you that you sign up for. I expect you to deliver that.
That's it.
You can't do that. I would like to fire you. And not on the first go if you can't deliver it. That's totally fine. You learned and you're given feedback. We have a keepers test we do on a quarterly basis. Every 3 months, every person asks their manager, pinpointed, directed, if I resign tomorrow, will you fight hard enough to keep me or not? And the answers are only 3: yes, maybe, or no. That's it. And it's recorded on a software, and it's very clear. Yes means you're doing very well. You don't have to worry about anything. Maybe means, look, there is potential in you, but it doesn't look like you're creating that impact. So if you resign tomorrow, maybe, I might fight, I might not fight. So you've got that feedback. And now this quarter, you will go ahead and you'll say, look, I'm a maybe, I want to do that. Does that instill fear at times? Of course it does. But I look at it as a healthy paranoia. What is better? You thinking you're doing well and your manager thinking you're not doing well, and one day your manager comes to you and said, you're fired. Is that better? Or the other way around, where the manager says, look, you're at that gray zone right now. Why don't you buckle up? Why don't you step up? Align with my expectations. And if you do that, I've seen so many people who come back from a maybe to a yes. Some people go from a maybe to a no, and that's totally fine also. But decision making can be fast. We don't stagnate on people to say, look, they've been around for a while and things around that. So that's a little bit, by the way, that actually took me to the next portion, which is hiring people and then culture. So this was more around the culture, or what is the kind of culture that we set up. So yeah, that's just out there. Does that give you a perspective around?
Super insightful. Coming back to अब पीछे चलते हैं, then let's cover those things. आप बता रहे थे, then there was a shift. Then you figured कि there is a blind and you can't move ahead with this service-based approach, and you thought of shifting it to the product. How was it? और फिर जो आपका product था, जो service थी, how did you actually convert it into product? What was the story behind that?
So we didn't convert the service into the product, right? Firstly, we took a very, very, very tough call. And when I say tough, I thought it was very easy and very, very first principles based. But a lot of people did not think like that, including my own team, a lot of people from my own friends and family and everybody. Because we were doing well, the worst thing in a startup is not that you don't do well. The worst thing in a startup is you're doing well in a business that's not scalable.
Because realize that you're doing.
Yeah, because I could see we can't grow from 5 to 50 to 500 million in revenue. And to do that, I'll probably have to take 30 years. I have a lot of bad qualities in me. The one I'm not working on is my impatience, right? So I need things fast, like really fast, right? Because especially things which are reversible, I have an unusually high appetite of taking risks, right? From most people that you will meet, right? Because I'm very comfortable in taking risks, I can move very fast. Because what happens? You break some things, that's fine, we'll come back. That's for reversible decisions. For irreversible decisions, you want to spend more time. In order to scale, we need a product. I was very, very clear on that, right? We took the tough call of saying to the point, and I remember at that time in parallel, we had more than 200 projects running for services. I took a call to say in 12 months' time, we need to take this down to 0, even if that means paying money back to customers. And my people are like, have you gone mad? You can do a product company, you can get a new CEO, you can run both the companies, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, the problem is distraction. I want to do one, I want to do it really, really well. So we went from those 4-5 million revenue to almost 0 revenue. But because my customers loved what I was already doing, because remember OSCP and the quality, high quality delivery, because of that, those customers were the first customers who became my customer for the product also. When I say you should go and talk to 100 customers, right? Those were my customers. I was already doing services for them, for cybersecurity services. So I went and asked them, can you tell me? I remember the chief risk officer, Bharat Panchal, and I had thought about, and he gave me a very nice analogy. I thought about this idea and I was talking to a lot of customers, right? And back in the day, I remember meeting the chairman and CEO of BSNL. He got very impressed with my idea of the product. And he says that, look, I will go ahead and I'll become your exclusive distributor at that time. BSNL for B2B, which was obviously not a very smart thing, would have been a very smart thing. But this is a very big company and I'm a small company. And he said, look, I want to, because BSNL wants to do B2B cybersecurity product. So I will take distribution rights and I will make 30-40% of every license that we will sell. And last piece, since you asked me the question around, as a founder and CEO, what are your top responsibilities? We spoke about setting the vision. So talking to all your potential customers, no matter what, if you're doing a B2B startup, please reach out to them on LinkedIn. Send them, Steve Jobs made more than 1,000 calls before he could actually get the first one to agree on buying the Apple One laptop, and the rest is history, right? I like this line by Vinod Khosla. A startup is the people it hires and not the plans it makes. Similarly, the second piece is you need to raise funds. Raising funds is actually very easy as long as you have a complete subject matter expertise of your industry, of the problem you're trying to solve. You need to be a walking encyclopedia. And when investors see that in you,
At the early stage we're talking about.
super early stage I'm talking about, right? That's all you need. You don't even need, of course, if you have an app like Instagram, they knew the exact problem they're solving. It takes 3 people to build an app, actually 1 person. But if you want to build a lot of features, blah, 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 and put it on the app store for like what, $100, $200, you can just put it, right? So that's even better. But even if you don't have that, just a PowerPoint presentation, and if it shows how many hours you've spent to understand the problem, there are enough investors in the world who would like to back you for that. So that's number 2. And something very stupid a lot of young people do. Oh, I give away 20-30% of my company during angel investment itself. During angel investment, if anybody is asking you for more than 5% of your company, run away from the person. Not only don't take money, but run away from the person. For advisory, sweat equity, if anybody is asking you more than 0.1 to 0.2% of your company, run away from that person. Those are not the right people, because they're basically there to take advantage of you because you know very little. I'm giving you benchmarks so that this becomes actionable. So that's on the fundraising side of things. The third piece is recruitment, right? There are three things that I look for in a person when I recruit them. They need to walk on water, fly in the air, and convert water into wine. I can show you 200 people who can do that. What do I mean when I say these three things? The thing which I mean by that is they have to be the best of 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 the best. If you just look at my leadership today, the kind of absolute rock stars, you throw a stone in the company, not just in the leadership, it falls on a 25x engineer. Give a link to my culture deck, and we'll talk more about the culture also under your podcast. It's an open deck. It's a small deck of 101 slides, which talks about what kind of people we recruit. What are the kind of qualities we look for inside them, right? And what matters. So the only reason I'm saying this, and it's very, very significant, is because on an Excel sheet, even after understanding the problem of the customer, every Excel sheet or every business model today makes a startup $1 trillion company. Every company is a big company on an Excel sheet when you make a business plan. What is the difference? Where does things go wrong?
People.
That's all. That's why. So as a founder and CEO, recruiting, retaining, and occasionally replacing. These are the three things for recruitment that you absolutely have to keep in mind. And the bar is very simple as a founder. Everybody who reports to me today are people who I would not mind reporting to.
They should be better than you.
Not only 10%, but 10 times better than you in doing what they are coming in to do. Look at my leadership. Go to my website. You will see that they are A++. The joy of working with them, learning from them, and working with them, it's one of the most important things that excites me so much, to do my job. So recruitment out there. You have a question?
I got the bar, but it's an entire other segue. How do you get those people?
Very simple. If you obviously don't have money in the beginning. I have a ton of money to give them. So yes, big people come at a lot of money, but you have something more valuable than money, and that's called equity. Please hire 5 people and give everybody 5% of the company. Please give 75% of your company to the first 5 hires that you make. Imagine this, right? If you tell somebody, I give you 5% of the company, we will do our first fundraise, which will be worth $10 million. $10 million in seed round today is a very, very reasonable number. It's not crazy. If somebody comes to say, oh, I'll give you $1 million, $2 million of valuation, again, they're trying to fuck around with you. Don't talk to such people, right? They're just taking advantage of you. So the point I'm trying to make there is that reasonably good, even without any idea, if somebody believes in you, asking for a $8 to $10 million valuation for a seed round is a very, very fair and a very, very I did that 6 years back, right? Today, it's much easier. So coming back to what I said, if you're a $10 million company during seed round, 5% of that is $500,000. That's 4 crore rupees. So you just gave somebody 4 crore rupees. All you say is it'll be 4-year vesting. So you got to stick around and we'll build this company together. So I actually think it's easier to recruit while early stages than late stages. Just give somebody will not come in 5%. That's fine. Give them 1/3, half of the company. If somebody can be the person, because of that person joining, your company can become 10 times bigger.
Why not?
Would you not give 50% and make it 10 times bigger? Or you stayed one time with 100% owner, you're still smaller, right? So that's the recruitment side of things. Use equity and don't play games with your people. Don't play games. A lot of people will give you equity, first year 5%, second year 10%. I used to be a fool like that in the beginning of this company. And that was not smart to do. Today, when we give equity to anybody, if we give them 100 stocks, 25 vest in first year. Because I don't want somebody to come in and leave in 3 months and they still get stock. No, you don't deserve that. So first year vesting, so the cliff. So if you have 100, 25 gets vested on day 365, which is the first year. And then we have monthly vesting for the next 36 months.
Wow.
So it's very straightforward. You're here for 20 months, you get equity worth 20 months. It's very fair. Now if somebody's not performing, your job is to get rid of them. That's totally fine. So that's where recruiting comes into the picture. And I can tell you the single most important factor And I'm going to say something very crazy right now. Even more important than your vision is the people who you hire. Because even if your vision is wrong, with the right people, they will correct that. But if your vision is right and you have the wrong people, you're screwed in ways you can't even imagine. And not just screwed in a startup, the kind of mental stress, the kind of stupidity that'll be going through, it'll just screw your life. Right? I sleep like a baby every night, knowing that I have arguably the smartest human beings on the planet side by side working with me
On the same.
on the same mission and vision, on the same culture that we are all aligned to. And that's what makes this very special.
Tell Saket some personal challenge, some challenge. If a 22 or a 22-year-old or 20-year-old tries to solve that, what's the challenge that you would like to give them to solve, and what's the reward waiting for them?
So the way I look at that problem is the following. What is important is not the challenge and what you do there. It's the how you solve the challenge is what I'm after when I'm talking to a 20-year-old. The challenge almost doesn't matter. What matters is, are you solving it by going into the depth of knowing and thinking through the problem in first principles? And if you do that, what reward can I give you? Well, you will become a person which doesn't need rewards, because your life will become so rewarding, because every single problem which comes in your way, which it always does for every single human being,
Can be solved through that approach.
Exactly. So I'm giving you not a wish. I'm giving you a genie which can solve every wish and grant you every wish. And all you have to do, it doesn't even matter what challenge. When you're thinking about creating a website, when you're thinking about creating a code, when you're thinking about today I will clean my room, can it be cleaned in a way which is the most efficient and at the same time the deepest way that a human being has ever thought about that? When you're thinking about playing the piano, when you're thinking about today going and swimming, right? Can you do that in a way which truly goes to the depth? It can be solving something for somebody also, right? I'm trying to solve something for this old man who is asking me every time to go ahead and go to the bank and withdraw some money for him and come back. Can I enable him on his phone itself and teach him or her the right thing to do, so that you unlocked it from first principles perspective for the rest of his life, what needs to be done? So the problem itself, I'm not too worried about what you solve. The how and how deep can you go with each one of them, that is what defines the quality of the rest of your life which is out there.
Perfect. Thanks a ton. Super grateful.
Thank you so much for having me here.